And welcome everyone back to the For Men podcast. My name is Andrea C. Palmer. And as always, this podcast is dedicated to men that have experienced sexual abuse. However, overall, we discuss all kinds of topics that relate to men, advocating for men and their experience in the world. And as always, I'm very grateful to have a guest that will join on the podcast and talk about what they are doing when it comes to men and mental health. So I'm very glad to have Ummar here today, who is the founder of MENPOWERMENT. Thank you for being here, Ummar.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So let's get straight into it. Who are you and what is MENPOWERMENT?
So my name's Ummar. I'm based in Hertfordshire in England. So Hertfordshire is a county near London. And MENPOWERMENT for me is a platform to empower other men and to try and reduce this stigma. So there's a lot of stigma around men's mental health, especially here in the UK. And one man every 2 hours in the UK dies by suicide.
Yeah.
And after going through some mental health, so actually suffering from mental ill health myself, and I'm still working on overcoming it, and I'm on this journey to overcome it. I also in January I became a mental health first aider. And that was done through my workplace. So it'd be a case of if someone was having someone just wanted to talk or offload, they would come and speak to me, or somebody else who was a mental health first aider. So we're the first point of call before they can seek professional help.
Yeah, so they would like kind of connect with you and kind of just like a familiar friend or somebody to talk to, somebody that was.
Yeah. So it's so that's what we're in place for. But when we were going through the qualification, when I found out that 75% of suicides are male, and that one male in the UK dies by suicide every 2 hours, that statistic just broke my heart. And
it does, yeah, definitely.
And for me, that was sort of the final straw for me to want to come out here and make a difference.
Definitely.
So that's the aim. One man at a time to break down this stigma.
One man at a time. I see it the same way. It's one person at a time, and then in the overall, we're impacting that person, and it goes on to whoever they touch, and then so on and so on. So definitely platforms like yours are needed. I've been following you for quite a while. So MENPOWERMENT is, you're always posting very positive things and drawing attention to that stat of men always being, unfortunately, the highest rate of suicide from where you are to the UK to all the way here in the States. It's always been that way for a long time. And you mentioned the stigmas and things. Do you think that has to do with why that stat is so high?
100%, and I think it comes from a lot from society and how society portrays men, and how we're taught, from a young age that boys don't cry, or man up, and or people will say to why are you crying like a little girl? So things like that, where it's sort of taking away that sense of being able to show emotion, that you're not allowed to. You can't talk about how you're feeling. You're not allowed to cry. You're not meant to feel things.
Because if you're feeling things, then you're not in control.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think it's installed in boys and men, like from a young age.
Definitely, yeah.
That men don't cry, and boys don't cry, and you should man up and things like this. And it when something's drilled into you from such a young age, as you get older, you keep that, and so it's you keep things bolted in, and you don't want to talk about things.
And then it's influencing your other relationships as you get older.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it does. And because if you're even in a marriage, if you're emotionally unavailable, or you don't want to talk about how you're feeling, you're never truly going to be on like a good level with your partner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I could see that. Yeah. And there is such a I see that there's like it feels like there's a trend of change here. There's lots of sites like yours, Menpowerment, that are starting to pop up that are run by men that are trying to start to say, we want to stop the stigma. We want to express our emotions. We've always had emotions. We want to be able to express that without this backlash from society. And what do you think that does for the younger generations coming, like your type of platform? What do you think that does for them?
I think it empowers them, and it helps them to understand that actually there's nothing wrong with opening up and talking about things. And I just feel it will make them more aware of their feelings. Like for me, like I only learned about this recently.
Hmm.
So when I see people who are much younger than me and they're talking about mental health and how they're feeling, and they say like I meditate or I will journal, and I say to them like that's incredible. Like you've got like 8 or 9 years on me,
Mm.
and you're so young and you're doing this, and that and it's to see that it's refreshing and it's influential, because it's inspiration when you look at people who are younger that are doing it as well. And if that's how the generation is moving forward, then they're breaking the generational curses where their parents may have not gone to therapy, or their parents didn't journal, or their
Yeah.
parents didn't think that mental health existed. But where they're breaking that chain, the generation moving forward, there'll be better understanding of it.
Hmm. Definitely. I think, yeah, I didn't come from a family that necessarily journaled. I didn't come from a family like that either, where we've seen that a lot. And
Yeah,
it's very interesting to see these younger generations, and especially males, boys, talking about this stuff and wanting to get involved in meditation and doing yoga and doing breathing techniques. And yeah, it's
for
awesome.
sure.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
is. I think it's incredible.
Yeah. And another thing that you do on Mempowerment is you're gathering people that'll come share their story. Is that kind of what they do sometimes too on your page?
Yeah. So I mean, I've reached out to, because the way I see it is that when if when you do something at the start, it is a little bit like it's difficult, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So for me, the way that I'm trying to break down this stigma is by reaching out to as many men as possible, asking them to share a clip of their mental health experience, what they went through, how they overcame it, or how they're still overcoming it,
Hmm.
and then posting it on my page for other people to see. And I just feel that if people can see that, that this is a man and he's opening up about what he went through and how he's overcome it, there might be someone who's going through that process or having similar feelings. And if they see that video, it may inspire them to open up, or it may inspire them to realize that actually what I'm going through is temporary. Like the
Hmm.
better days, they will come.
Yes.
Someone else went through this and they've overcome it. I'm going through the same thing. And if they talk about what they did, this person may try to also use the same technique, and
Hmm.
it's helping them overcome what they're going through rather than having to suffer in silence.
Yeah, I agree. It's something about when we can see in another person that we can even imagine that we could get out of this situation too.
Mhm.
It's like you said, just seeing another man come forward and say, that I've had this kind of struggle. And then even if that person doesn't go out and kind of share on your platform and share their story, they hear it and they imagine better for themselves. They imagine that they could work through it as well.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard sometimes to get males to kind of come forward and share their story?
To be fair, I think Instagram can, because I do it mainly through Instagram,
Hmm.
um, and I think that can be quite a difficult platform at times,
Yes, it
because
can.
sometimes people don't see the messages that they might see
Hmm.
the messages. Um, some people may see it and not reply, uh, but then some. I would say with the amount of messages that I've sent out, it is a small amount of men that have responded and said yes, like we'll do it.
Hmm.
Some have read it and not replied. A couple of people said to me, "It's not for me. I'm not ready to share that experience."
Hmm.
But then on the other hand, people have then said to me, "I don't think I have anything to share. I keep up with my mental well-being, so I wouldn't be able to share an experience." And I think that in itself
Hmm.
is incredible. For them to be so aware of their mental like wellness and how to keep up with it, and just understanding that it's very important to the way we have physical health. Mental health is just as important.
Yes, definitely. I think we have
Yeah.
always seen that too. That's true. A lot of emphasis on physical health and
Hmm.
not as much on mental health. And yet I definitely feel that trend is there now because I've never been online more than I have. And I feel like I've said that so many times, but man, there's so many different platforms about
Hmm.
mental health now. And
Yeah.
especially even for
Yeah.
men, just more discussion about it. So the more there is, the better. I think that's, and you make up such a good point too. The messages do go sometimes missing in the messenger of Instagram and things like that.
Hmm.
So it's hard sometimes to reach out and connect with
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
But it's nice though because of like for me, like I've like I've done it quite in advance, if that makes sense. So I've I've there's people who have reached out and I've got their stories. I just need to post them, and so I'm
Hmm.
trying to post one. I try to post one every week.
Yeah.
Um, and whilst I'm still doing that, I'm still reaching out to people and then sending them examples of what I'd be looking for. And yeah, so it can be difficult, but there are men who are willing to do it and to open up and share, and and that's the aim, to get these men to talk
Hmm.
about what they went through so that other people don't feel like it's such a taboo subject.
Definitely. Yeah. It's more discussion makes it less, yeah, uncomfortable in some sense. Yeah.
Hmm.
And for you doing men empowerment, what has happened for you that you didn't expect that to come out of doing this?
um That's a really good question. I think the support that I've got.
Yeah.
Um, so when I first started out, I remember saying to my wife, like, what if I don't have much of a following? What if my content's not good? So it was a lot of self doubt
Hmm.
before, you know, coming out and putting this on the putting out empowerment on Instagram. But the support that I received has been incredible. Like people who I don't even know, they'll comment on my post, they'll like my post, they'll share them, and they say, "Oh, we really like your content."
Hmm.
And for me, that's been quite not overwhelming, but it's been like really nice to see because it wasn't anything that I had expected to get from putting out this content.
Yeah. I think for me, it sounds like for people to reach out to your things, it just lets you know that it was needed. It's definitely needed. And you are
Mhm.
putting out good information, right? For somebody to
Yeah.
feel compelled to send you a message, it's needed.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure, for sure.
Definitely.
But then even so, my last couple of posts, I think the I think that post itself, the amount of support I got on that one, and the shares and the views. Um, so that post was it was regarding a boy who now is no longer with us. So he had posted on his story that he was fighting a battle against depression, um, and that he had lost this battle. He was a boy from a South Asian background, and
Hmm.
he posted. I think it might have been about 1 o'clock in the morning. I saw it at 1 o'clock in the morning that he had,
You follow that person.
no, 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 no. So sorry. It he had posted to say that he had a battle with depression and he had lost this battle with depression,
Uh-huh.
and then like big influencers in the UK had shared it, and people were saying, where is he? What can we do to help? Um, and like I said, I saw it about 1 o'clock in the morning, And then the following day, about 11 o'clock, my wife had seen a post that said that he was no longer with us, and she told me
Mhm.
about it straight away. And she said, and she told me what happened, and then that's when I created the video, because as a South Asian man, I know what it's like to have to go, you know, to have to battle with depression, or for people to say that, mental health doesn't exist. And I think that sort of, after seeing what happened to this boy, it really hit home for me.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, it's obviously, my page is for everyone, but trying to break the stigma even more so in the South Asian community.
That's what I was gonna ask too. You think, because there's that South Asian, do you think in culturally that sometimes that mental health is misunderstood then?
I think people think it's non-existent.
Non-existent?
Yeah.
Yeah. In what way that it's that
So they'll say it never existed in my day,
I see.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Well, we never had these problems in my generation, and
Yeah,
your generation does. So kind of like we're making it up, or we're being soft.
yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I would say that it's to do with, so it's a lot to do with the culture and what people think. So in our language, there's a saying, and it's the saying is "log kya kenge," which translates to "what will people say." So
Yeah.
people don't really talk about mental health because it's seen as some kind of deficiency.
Like what will
Just
people say about you, or what will people say about the family?
yeah, or
Oof.
this is so and so's daughter, or so and so's son, or so and so's grandson. You
Hmm.
know, they had such a big name in the community, and now he's got depression. And it it can, people are worried about bringing shame to the family name and things like this. But there are so many things that are so much more important than a family name.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
What do you say when you hear someone projecting that idea that mental health doesn't exist, and that, will be concerned about how the family is going to perceive it? What would you want people to know about that?
that mental health is that it does exist.
Hmm.
It's very much
Yeah.
there. Um, that it is important, just as important as your physical health. And that, like, it's okay. Like it's okay to to have mental ill health. We do, like, we will all go through something and react to it differently. And for me, like, it's okay not to be okay. Like, it's okay to have down days, but I wouldn't want you to stay in that state all the time, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think it's a great response for that. And with that too, on the down days, what do you like to do that kind of lifts your spirits?
So on my down days, I mean, for example, so one thing that sort of makes me feel better in myself is getting a haircut. So I would
Hmm.
try and go to the barbers every week.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that makes me feel good. Um, but on my down days, I try and understand why I'm feeling down.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
so I
like
try to
the self-care and the introspection there too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to, if I'm feeling a certain way, I'd want to know why. Why am I feeling like this? So I try and sit with my emotions and sit with what I'm feeling, and as uncomfortable as that is, it helps. Or there'll be days where I'll just go out for a drive, and I'll go to, like, I'll find a park, and I'll just sit by myself, or I'll take or I'll take my journal with me, and I'll sit and I'll journal. Um, yeah, and I feel much lighter after doing that. You know, sometimes it's nice to just get away and have some quality time to yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. It reminds me of if I equated something I do to a haircut, it'd be like a pedicure.
Yeah,
It's just
but see,
something that
I
you do for
enjoy.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy a pedicure. You know,
Yes, you
and
do.
again,
They're for men too. Hey, that's a
uh,
stigma.
yeah,
They're for
I
men
agree.
too.
It is,
It
and that's actually, you
is.
know what I mean. I love getting a pedicure. You know, makes me feel
Yeah.
great.
It's healthy feet.
Yeah,
But it
it's
is.
I don't know why there's such a stigma around it. You
Yeah,
know,
it's no, it feels great. It's very
yeah,
refreshing. Yeah,
I enjoy it. So
definitely. Well, I appreciate so much of what you shared so far about your platform and everything. And I want to give you the last podcast question here of what does it mean to be a man?
so for me, I mean, it's a good question.
Take your time.
Um, I'd say for me, I'd say like being a man is, you know, like being good to others, being a gentleman, um, like taking responsibility, and accountability, you know, like for your actions.
I agree with you on that. That is, I usually typically don't add my 2 cents here at the end. And however, I
Yeah.
feel like I do hear a common theme for men is that they feel this manliness about taking accountability for their own self and their own actions.
Mhm.
You know, and just being an overall responsible person and caring. And I love that you added gentleman too, because you can still be that and still be strong and all those good things too.
Yeah, and also like be. I think for me, I think one thing about being like man, like being a man means to me is actually showing emotion. So although people say that, you know, showing emotion makes you less of a man or it shows a weakness, actually it shows a lot of strength
Yes, it does.
to be able to talk about how you're feeling or to be able to cry. I think that takes a lot of strength.
Mhm.
Um, and I say that's definitely a thing for me as well. Like for like being a man, that yeah, it's okay to show emotion. Um, whereas people would normally say that it's a weakness.
Yeah.
I'd say this, yeah,
It's also part of the trends that are changing for this time. So yeah, definitely
yeah.
agree with you on that. And for anybody that's listening, where can they find you? What is your tag for Instagram?
So it's at menpowerment underscore.
Any other places that
Yeah,
they could find you, or
not yet.
for right now, Instagram and
Yeah,
eventually your own podcast and Facebook and all that good stuff.
yeah,
No pressure.
for sure. My own podcast, definitely, definitely. But also, I'll be on TikTok soon. Um,
Yeah,
because I think a lot
definitely.
more of my content now would be um more videos. I think with the last few videos that I've shared, there's been a lot more interaction um than my normal posts. There's been more reshares. So I think it'll be a case of me making more video content.
Sounds good, definitely. And
Yeah.
and earlier you did mention somebody that had passed away. Who was that?
So his name was Deep. So I didn't know him personally.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but when I saw the story, it was heartbreaking.
Yes, it is. And
Yeah.
at the end of this, just, I don't know him either like that, but, definitely
Mhm.
my condolences to his family and everything to lose someone in such an unfortunate way. So this is
Yeah.
why we're doing things like this, to get
Yeah,
more
for sure.
information out and
For
yeah,
sure.
to make everybody know that they're
Yeah.
loved and somebody cares. Yeah. So thank you so much, Umar, for being here on the
No,
podcast. I appreciate
thank you so much for having
everything
me.
that you
Honestly, it's
shared.
been a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem at all. And for anybody that is listening, as always, let's continue this discussion. Leave your comments, leave your likes, and share these videos around for anybody that you think needs it. and all that good stuff. And if you are interested in connecting with Ummar and MENPOWERMENT underscore at Instagram. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have a good evening.